Good evening, everybody. I welcome you to today's section of Roznama, a daily newspaper analysis. Now, in today's newspaper, continuing from yesterday, the most significant piece of news that you must keep in mind is that Manipur, after 1 year, almost 1 year of state emergency, which is about to end on the 13th of February, the BJP government elected, and Manipur got its chief minister after a span of 1 year. All right. So Manipur got Khemchand as its new chief minister, who has been elected by the BJP as the leader of the BJP legislative party in Manipur. And because the entire trouble in Manipur came about because of differences between the Meiteis and the Kukis and also another tribe, the Nagas, the government in the state has made it a point that along with Chief Minister Yumnam Khemchand Singh, there will also be two deputy chief ministers who have been appointed, and these deputy chief ministers will be one from the Kukizo tribe and the other from the Naga tribe. All right. Then naturally, as per the constitutional provision, the oath of the chief minister has been administered by the governor of the state. All right. So you can see here in the picture, Manipur Governor Ajay Bhalla is administering the oath of office to the chief minister yesterday. All right. So a significant piece of news that you must keep in mind. Now, why was this entire process sped up? Again, because of certain constitutional provisions. Like yesterday, I told you all, just keep in mind, Article 356 provides for implementation of state emergency or president's rule in any state on grounds of failure of constitutional machinery. Here, the failure of constitutional machinery in Manipur's case was that the then Chief Minister of Manipur, N. Biren Singh, was incompetent or was behaving incompetent to curb or mellow down the entire violent riots that were going on in Manipur. All right. So, because the government couldn't maintain law and order in the state, the government had to do away with. So, under Article 356, emergency was imposed or president's rule was imposed in the state. Now, once a president's rule has been imposed in any respective state in the country, for at a time, or for in the first instance, the president's rule can stay intact for 6 months, and this 6 months the emergency will be implemented or will be put in place only after it has been ratified or approved by the parliament. That is, both houses of the parliament have to separately approve implementation of president's rule in a respective state within 2 months of its proclamation. All right. And once approved, it stays put for a period of 6 months. After 6 months, the emergency has to be reapproved. All right. Now, the provision of the constitution says that the state emergency can be reapproved once. That is, once emergency has been proclaimed in any state, it can stay put for a period of 1 year. It can't go beyond 1 year until and unless there are two specific scenarios or cases that are satisfied, either of the two. One being that the Election Commission of India says that no elections can be undertaken in the state in the present scenario, or there is national emergency proclaimed in the country under Article 352. All right. So we don't have national emergency in the country, and the Election Commission said that the conditions are absolutely ripe that we can undertake elections in the country. And also the articles, if you go through it, they also say that in case the BJP government wanted to extend this to beyond 1 year, they would have to bring about amendments in the constitution, which would likewise say that emergency can be implemented more than 1 year. And also, if these two circumstances do exist, an emergency has to be extended beyond 1 year in extreme cases, the emergency in its totality in a state cannot go beyond 3 years. It is imperative for the central government under any circumstances to establish a popular government in a state within 3 years. All right. So this is what you have to keep in mind with respect to the Manipur crisis. All right. Then the next piece of news, one of the firsts for India. Please keep in mind that for the first time, a sitting chief minister, that is the chief minister of West Bengal, has taken up a case and has allegedly defended herself in the Supreme Court. All right. Now, this she has done because she is representing herself against the Election Commission of India in the Supreme Court for the entire special intensive revision of electoral rolls exercise that is being undertaken by the Election Commission of India in West Bengal, which has resulted in the deletion of a large number of voters from the electoral rolls because they did not have significant number of documents, papers, etc. that were required for to be verified as the citizen of India. All right. So she's become the first sitting chief minister to have appeared before a Supreme Court. All right, for a respective case. Do keep it in mind. All right, then a wonderful news for our Clat aspirants that there were many petitions filed with the Supreme Court, with the court in the High Courts, where they did say that there was one particular answer in the English section as per set A and consecutively the other sets as well, which had two answers which are absolutely correct. The student who filed the petition, he did say that his answer was also correct, but the consortium did not give proper heed to his petition and they otherwise also released the merit lists. And because of not giving particular heed to his option, which he believed was correct and naturally was correct, he missed on to a college of his choice. So the High Court has directed that the Clat consortium must look into this, and because the first counseling process is already over, for the next round of counselings, an updated merit list must be brought in as per consideration of this particular answer, which has this particular question, which has two correct answers. So it's a wonderful news. A lot of the students might get into their dream colleges now. Okay. Then coming to the next one, again a very important piece of news. The National Disaster Management Authority has issued for the first time guidelines for identification of disaster victims. Now, what is this actually about is that there were no proper guidelines, in the sense that there were no proper biological records with the forensics, with the medical institutes, through which the in certain extreme disaster cases where it becomes very difficult to identify victims because major DNA is destroyed, the NDMA has issued guidelines which has moved on to include that even national dental data registry should be maintained, so as to keep a record of victims or people who've lost their lives, to such an extent that in case the DNA is destroyed because of excessive burning or due to any XYZ reason, the teeth might stay intact. So that should be used as an identification method. All right. So these guidelines have been issued. You all can go through the article. It gives you good insights into what are the various guidelines that they've undertaken and why have they undertaken this guidelines. Because of certain tragic events like the Air India crash, the chemical factory explosion in Sangareddy, Telangana, the fall of the bridge in Gujarat, flash floods in Uttarakhand, etc. And these guidelines were issued on the day of Republic Day. The document was titled National Disaster Management Guidelines on Comprehensive Disaster Victim Identification and Management. All right. And this particular guideline has been released exactly 25 years after the Bhuj earthquake of 2001. All right. So under these guidelines, they have actually expanded the roles of various stakeholders in identification of victims, and they've asked and given clear outlines as to what should be included. They've given 4 stages for identification with respect to post-mortem data, collection of ante-mortem data, like medical records from families, reconciliation of this data for identification, and etc. All right. So a very important current affair, do keep in mind. Okay. Then the next is on why I wanted to flag this down is not because everything that happened with Indigo, but because of the organization, which is the Competition Commission of India. I've taken it up for you all in yesterday's session as well. So this case, everybody must be aware that last year, in the peak travel season, during the month of December, where a lot of people, they start traveling for New Year's, Christmas breaks, etc. The Indigo airline started cancelled innumerable flights on the day, and a lot of people had to suffer, which resulted in escalating prices or airfare prices for other airlines, naturally being a major drain on the pockets of many people. All right. So the Competition Commission of India, which is the sole regulatory authority of the country, which seeks to regulate competition and seeks to maintain a balance in terms of monetary drains on pockets of people, in the sense that it seeks to maintain a balance, that the monetary terms or financial costs of certain things should not be overbearing on any section of the people in the country. So this Competition Commission of India, it is a statutory body which has been established under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. It was established in 2003 under Competition Act of 2002. So do keep in mind, Competition Commission of India, established in 2003 under Competition Act of 2002, works under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and because it has been established under an act, hence it is also known as a statutory body. Okay, so do keep all of it in mind, it's important. All right. Okay. Then coming to the next piece of news, again a continuation from yesterday. I did take up the entire START treaty. What things you have to keep in mind, that there were innumerable treaties that were signed between the two super blocks during the Cold War era. So the Cold War period ranged from 1945 to 1991, and during this period there were two super blocks in the world divided on ideologies. So we had USA on one side, who followed capitalism or liberalism as their ideology, and we had USSR on the other hand, who were against capitalism because it resulted in the existence of private property, and they wanted to establish a just social order, equitable social order, and base their economy on socialism. Now, not only was this a mad race for ideological supremacy, but also it was a mad race for armament supremacy back then. All right. So both these countries, they started expanding their nuclear arsenals and other armament weapon arsenals. All right. So because it is absolutely very, very dangerous always when we expand our armaments, various treaties took place between US and USSR back then to limit their armament production. All right. So one set of treaties are known as your SALT treaties, which is an abbreviation and stands for Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, Strategic Arms Limitations Treaty, and then we have the START treaties. All right. So here you have the START treaties that have been mentioned. So this is the START Treaty 2 that we are looking at, and this second START treaty, and START here stands for Strategic Arms Reduction. Okay, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. The first one was undertaken in 1995, implemented in 1996. The second one, which is set to expire today, okay, it is set to expire on 5th of February 2026. So this particular treaty was signed in 2010, enforced in 2011, and it was signed for a 10-year period. That is, it was set to expire in 2021. Then it was given a 5-year extension, and now it was set to expire in 2026. So because since 2022, there has been major upheaval in the diplomatic relations between USA and Russia because of the Russia-Ukraine war. No talks could take place between Russia and USA, and Russia, on the other hand, had put its foot down, saying that Russia no longer wants to negotiate with USA. But now the nuclear pact is set to expire and everybody is waiting for the next round of talks and to see what is actually going to happen to nuclear deterrence now. All right. Now, both the countries, USA and Russia, they are as of now in Turkey negotiating a peace treaty to conclude or bring to an end the Russia-Ukraine war. And it is there that Russia has also flagged this issue that we must talk about the START treaty, its conclusion and maybe its renewal. Okay. So do keep an eye for further updates on the START treaty. Then coming to the next piece of news is again around Manrega. So what are the things that we must keep in mind about Manrega before we get into this? What is the entire issue? It is that in Karnataka, the Legislative Assembly has adopted a resolution. The opposition members have the members who are not BJP members, the other parties there, Congress, etc., they have adopted a resolution in the Legislative Assembly and called for the restoration of Manrega and no changes in Manrega into the BBG Ramji initiative. Why? Because they say that BBG Ramji is anti-federal in nature and it promotes economic terrorism. Now, why do they call BBG Ramji as anti-federal in nature? Let's talk about Manrega. Manrega program was brought into existence in 2005. It was a central sector scheme, all right? A central sector scheme, which simply implies that 100% funding of the scheme or the entire allowance that were to be given will be borne by the central government. No financial burden will be extended to the state governments, all right? And also it sought, Manrega provided 100 days of guaranteed employment, and these 100 days of guaranteed employment was provided only in rural areas, all right? Now, what is the change under BBG Ramji? Okay, now under BBG Ramji, it has expanded the number of days. So from 100, the number of days are now 125 days of guaranteed employment. But now it is no longer a central sector scheme, but it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Because it is a centrally sponsored scheme, this implies that the central government alone is not going to bear the expenditures of BBG Ramji. It will now be shared between the central and the state governments. So with respect to Northeast India and Himalayan state, the sharing formula or ratio is 90:10, 90% expenditure by the central government, 10% by the state governments. For other states, it is 60:40. 60% expenditure by the central government and 40% by the state governments. Now, the people in the party in now Karnataka leaders are protesting against it, saying that this onus on states is against federalism or is against the entire upkeep of federal polity in a country at the expense of the central government. Okay, so this is the entire protest about it. Then coming to the next piece of news. Right now, as of now, our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is in the United States of America and he is attending a critical mineral conference to sign various pacts in terms of critical minerals and rare earth minerals. Rare earth minerals, critical minerals are all very important for harnessing renewable sources of energy, all right, for harnessing renewable energy sources, also for semiconductors and also for artificial intelligence, all right, in the sense that they are used in computer systems, etc. All right. So the external affairs minister right now is in USA and is trying to participating in this particular conference. And it was on the sidelines of these conference that the trade deal was also signed. And as per the trade deal, we naturally have 18% tariffs on Indian imports to US now. All right. Along with that, S. Jaishankar also flagged certain other issues like Quad cooperation, which was on a standstill for some years. I just wanted to flag Quad for you. So Quad as an organization was for the first time ideated in 2007 by the then Prime Minister of Japan. All right. By the then Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. Okay. And but then it did not come about till 10 years later in 2017. So it was in 2017 when the Quad organization or the Quad grouping was finally materialized. All right. Now, what is Quad? Quad is it is called Quad because it is a short form for quadrilateral. All right. Quadrilateral, which seeks to join USA, India, Japan, and Australia. All right. So this is why it is known as Quad. Okay. So these are the 4 member countries who are part of Quad, and then naturally they want to bring about summit level meetings in Quad. Okay. Quad was extended to summit level meetings in 2021. Summit level meaning that the heads of the countries, like the prime ministers and the presidents, they meet. Okay. All right, so that is all from this topic that I wanted to flag. The next is Kerala passes resolution over neglect in budget. This comes just 2-3 days after the budget. So during the budget speech also and after the budget also, Kerala had flagged this entire problem where they said that Kerala has been absolutely neglected in the union budget, where Kerala has only been mentioned, was only mentioned once for establishment of coconut coconut board, etc. That is because they flagged that Kerala is the largest producer of coconut in the world, and the government wanted to harness this potential. So that was all where Kerala was mentioned. Although in this year's budget, we do see that the devolution of funds from the central government to the state governments, in the devolution of funds from the central to the state governments, maximum amount of money has been extended to the southern states this time. Where always the northern states used to get maximum share, this time more money has been extended to the southern states, but yet Kerala has flagged this issue that Kerala has nowhere been mentioned, and Kerala did not get everything that Kerala had demanded. What were the basic demands that Kerala had put in was that an AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, must be set up in Kerala, at least one of them. And also they talked about establishment of a high-speed rail corridor, and all of this was absolutely ignored. All right, and then they said that no cooperative federalism is being followed in the country. Okay, then coming to the next one, again it is just a continuation of the previous this thing, that Mamata Banerjee has become the first sitting chief minister to file a writ petition in her own individual capacity and file her case in the Supreme Court. All right. Okay. Then another is again Sonam Wangchuk's detention. Sonam Wangchuk has been detained. I took this up yesterday also because it was the central government has flagged this entire issue, saying that Sonam Wangchuk had incited the people of Ladakh to undertake violent protests against the central government. What is the protest all about of Ladakh? That Ladakh recently became a union territory, a separate union territory in 2019, and then the people of Ladakh, with the abrogation of Article 370, and then the people of Ladakh were actually very happy about the abrogation, and they also were, welcoming of this move by the central government, and they had put forth certain demands in front of the government. One being that 2 seats must be given to Ladakh in the Lok Sabha. Then they called for an establishment of a separate Ladakh Public Service Commission to recruit individuals from their union territory for better administration of the union territory or the later state. Then they also demanded statehood eventually, and with statehood they demanded inclusion in the 6th schedule. All right. Now, these were the 4 basic demands that were flagged by the people of Ladakh under Sonam Wangchuk. Out of these 4, 2 seats in the Lok Sabha and establishment of Ladakh Public Service Commission, etc., was fulfilled. These 2 still remained since 2019. So they undertook another bout of protest, asking that the central government is not fulfilling the demands that were kept when Article 370 was abrogated. Why do they need inclusion in the 6th schedule? Because 6th schedule gives greater autonomy to the tribal populations to establish autonomous district councils where they can undertake policies, programs, even laws in line with their tribal cultures, traditions, customs, etc. Okay, so this is everything about the issue in Ladakh, and as of now Sonam Wangchuk has been detained because naturally the central government says that he has been was the one who was who incited the entire violence in Ladakh, and he's detained under National Security Act since September. And right now, as of now, the Supreme Court has asked the government, citing health issues of Sonam Wangchuk, whether his detention can be changed or thought of. Okay. All right. Then the same issue from the Hindu. The previous article was also from the Hindu, an extension of the same article where Ladakh leaders press for statehood again. So it talks about the same issue. You all can go through this article as well. Then Artemis program, which was set to be launched by February, but right now NASA has said that this Artemis program, which seeks to send humans to the moon, has been set off till March. Okay. All right, then coming to the editorials for today, UCG regulations on caste are narrowly framed. A good article gives you a good insight into the entire provisions and why have there been protests and what were the basic, ideas behind it. Why have they resisted? So it just talks about the same thing again. Keep in mind while you're reading this that the UCG guidelines the new one sought after 2012 sought to bring about equity in amongst the students, staff, and everybody on college campuses against any sort of discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, race, sex, place of birth, religion, etc. And they specified that caste-based discrimination will be punished, and only they did flag equity in terms of caste-based discriminations, where the general category students, they said that it shouldn't always be understood that only discrimination can be on the basis of caste. There can be discriminations that even general category people might face in certain circumstances. So they've just flagged this entire issue that the new UCG guidelines do not establish equity, but they are unfair towards the general category people. They also, another article is also there. One more article is there in one of the newspapers, which also says in the Hindu, which also gives a greater insight into the same thing. So you can go through either of them, whether in the Indian Express or the Hindu. All right, then the next one is a beautifully written article which talks about the diplomacy between India and Pakistan. And through this article, Shashi Tharoor, he simply wants to put through the message that in case we come to peace terms or peaceful negotiations and deliberations between the two countries, it is not a sign of weakness. It does not show that either of the two countries are weak, because they've set aside their political egos and they are, vouching for peace amongst themselves. And he's also portrayed that only at summit level dialogues, only at central level dialogues, peaceful negotiations only at the head political levels will never be able to sustain peace between the two countries. And he's basically said that more people to people contact and connect, giving allowing Pakistani citizens through visas to come into India for medical treatments, for tourism, for religious purposes must be permitted. And this is how relations could be warmed between the two countries, and warming of relations should never be seen as a defeat. amongst both of them. Neither should Pakistan feel so, nor should India feel so. Okay, and naturally, he's also said that it is the entire conflict is deep rooted and it can't go away in a day, but steps must be taken to bring about peace agreements. All right. Okay. Then another article which is on carbon capture, utilization and storage. CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. What does this imply? This simply implies that the government must take steps, and the government is undertaking steps which facilitate that the total amount of carbon dioxide which is being released in the atmosphere. Now, this carbon dioxide is not necessarily only from burning of fossil fuels, but it is also emitted through various processes of production otherwise also. So the article gives us an insight that carbon capture, utilization and storage is a key to attain India's goal of achieving a net zero carbon emission target. What is India's goal of net zero carbon emission? India seeks to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2070, while the global target is till 2050. Okay, this is what has been outlined through various programs, and also in this year's budget a very wonderful initiative was taken where 20,000 crores 20,000 crores of rupees have been outlined to undertake various programs for carbon capture, for carbon storage and carbon utilization. All right, and it also draws attention to the fact that it is not necessarily that it is only through burning of fossil fuels that carbon dioxide is actually released in the atmosphere. Sometimes carbon dioxide is emitted in the very process of production, which can't be done away with, but then the government must take concerted steps to root this problem out in any minimal manner as well. Okay, so it's a good article, do go through it. Then the next is it's an interview article where Ajay Singh has been interviewed, and it's a very good opinion where he's actually provided through a contrast between Venezuela and Iran. All right. So Trump has recently taken over Venezuela, and after takeover of Venezuela, there were very cold messages that were exchanged, or very hostile messages that were exchanged between USA and Iran, that both of them are absolutely ready to strike at each other, etc. So in this article, he's actually drawn a comparison that more than Venezuela, Iran could be a better choice when it comes to oil dominance. All right, he's talked about the fact that the basic reason for Venezuelan takeover by USA is only for oil, because Venezuela is believed to have the largest oil reserve in the world. Although that has not been harnessed effectively due to corruption reasons, etc., but it does have it. And also Iran also has the third largest reserves of crude oil, and not only reserves of crude oil but also reserves of LNG and natural gas, liquefied natural gas, etc. All right, and then he's also drawn a contrast saying that the oil that is found in Iran is of much superior quality as that is found in Venezuela, because Venezuelan oil has more of sludge, etc., whereas Iranian oil has less waste material in it. So harnessing could be cheaper in terms of Iran as compared to Venezuela. And also, if negotiations and peace does come about, then USA could actually help Iran in tapping these potential oil resources and to extract these potential oil resources. The entire reason for a downturn in the relations between US and Iran has specifically been this only, that they have because of the nuclear non-competence, where Iran started enriching uranium not for developing nuclear weapons, but USA likes to believe the fact that Iran is enriching uranium to eventually become a nuclear weapon country. Okay, so it gives you a good contrast. So you can go through this one. Then another article talks about the same problem that has been going on, the budget and the imperative of fiscal consolidation. They've called the budget as a very visionary budget, which is now moving away from traditional outlines like agriculture, etc., to just machine update, manufacturing machine updation and transport, construction, etc. They are moving beyond to things like development of semiconductors, harnessing artificial intelligence and chip manufacturing, biopharma, advanced technology sectors, etc. This also requires greater expenditure in these sectors. So they've drawn this idea to imperative being a fiscal consolidation being very, very important. Fiscal consolidation meaning that targeted alignment of money should be given to such sectors, and regular flow of money must be given in these sectors, so that the whatever blueprint and every planning that the government is doing can actually be brought to a successful end. Okay, so this is what the article actually talks about, and he's also drawn entire ideation towards the share of revenue expenditure to total expenditure has reduced. Now in 2024, 2014-15, it was 88%. Now it is 77%. All right. So although revenue expenditures are reducing, the government is thinking very diversely. So in order to materialize these diverse thinking, the government must work towards fiscal consolidation, that is not waste money unnecessarily, but target it to the important sectors. Okay. All right. Then again, a beautiful article just draws a contrast and gives you a good understanding as to how the US trade deal is beneficial and how did the government recently has struck many trade deals with the UK FTA signed last year, then a trade deal with EFTA countries, European free trade agreement, free trade agreement, and also the European Union free trade agreement, and then the US deal. So it's the article is highlighting that how well India is working in terms of economic diplomacy in garnering free trade agreements with the top countries and trading blocs of the world. So naturally a good potential has been highlighted, so which is going to majorly impact our manufacturing sector, especially the labor intensive sector, which is highly dependent on these textiles, etc. manufacturing, which are now meeting very minimal and sometimes in certain areas even zero tariffs. Okay. All right. Then another article which draws pointers from the START treaty, which is set to expire today, and a very beautifully written article where she's talked about that how did the START treaties actually come about, and why is there need for nuclear deterrence, and nuclear deterrence simply implying that nuclear non-proliferation, meaning that nuclear energy should not penetrate to countries, or nuclear weapons should not reach countries which have till now been away from harnessing or developing nuclear energy sources. All right. So a good article, do go through. It takes you through the entire Cold War period, where the first bomb was detonated in 1945 on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then how India came about, and then lessons from Ukraine, that Ukraine is a non-nuclear country, Russia is a nuclear country. The war has continued for the past 3 years, still without any conclusion as of now, but then Ukraine has been able to keep its stand being a non-nuclear country against a nuclear weapon country. Then last bit for today, cooperative cab service Bharat Taxis are set to launch today. Bharat Taxis are government owned taxi or government owned platforms similar to Ola, Ubers, etc., which are privately owned. So under and they will be working along in a cooperative manner, where the taxis and everything will be referred to as cooperative cab services, and the drivers of these Bharat Taxi will be known as Sarathis or Charioteers, and the entire ownership, operation, value creation, etc., will be kept on the owners of the Bharat Taxi, that is the drivers who are going to drive them. They will have to manage their expansion, etc. But then through this being a government platform now, concerted securities will be now aligned to the drivers, which maybe sometimes is not available in other privately owned platforms. Okay, so good this thing piece of news for brief for one-liners must be kept in mind. All right, and the government seeks to expand this to all states and cities across the countries in 2 years. It will be working in a cooperative manner, that is partially owned by the government, partially owned by the private individual, that is a Sarathi who is going to run this particular taxi, and it is also under the ambit of Home Affairs and Cooperation Minister, that is under Amit Shah. It is a cooperative crab service, then naturally comes under Minister of Cooperation. Okay. So this is everything for your newspaper analysis today, and I'll see you soon with the next one. Thank you.